The Reptimax Running with Beasts Andrewsarchus figure is now here. In the early 2000s, there once was a show that could glow. It was very special and full of potential. If you loved animals, viewing it was essential. We went to the past, but the time back wasn't that vast. No dinosaurs rage, instead mammals took centre stage. Among them walked a mysterious beast which hailed from the east. As tall as a horse, it ate a turtle with no remorse. It looked like a dog, yet this animal is still to this day shrouded in fog. A giant meat-eater, big in both feet and meter. The largest predatory mammal of the land can now be held in your hand. They're limited edition, so grab one before they're gone at www.reptimax.co.za.
Hello everyone, I'm so excited to finally show you my Walking with Beasts Andrewsarchus action figure. This is a figure I have wished for and imagined ever since I was a little child, and I'm so happy it now actually exists. I'm also so thrilled to announce that I have several really special guests joining me in this video, including Trey the Explainer, your local federal agent, and Dr. Darren Naish. However, some of you who are watching may be a bit confused. If you know anything about prehistoric mammals, you are probably wondering why on earth my Andrewsarchus looks like this. Well, this particular Andrewsarchus is based on a depiction of this creature in one of my all-time favorite shows, Walking with Beasts. My wonderful guests and I are going to talk about and cover the depiction of this creature in the show, what this animal may have really looked like in life, and look more closely at this figure. So stay tuned for a big video all about Andrewsarchus. Truly one of the most unique and special shows to ever grace television. There's really nothing else quite like Walking with Beasts. It is so incredibly rare to have an entire documentary dedicated to the Cenozoic period of Earth's history. When we are lucky enough to get TV shows which travel to the ancient past, the vast majority will cover dinosaurs in the Mesozoic, while the life which existed before and after are given very little attention compared to dinosaurs. We've seen so many depictions of T-Rex and Triceratops, while there are countless other fantastic extinct animals who are never given the spotlight and deserve to be honored. There have been some other documentaries which have depicted Cenozoic animals, such as Monsters We Met, Prehistoric Hunters, and Ice Age Giants, including some more dramatic shows like La Brea and Primeval. However, none of these other shows have the same magic and quality of Walking with Beasts. These other shows are also mostly focused on the most recent stage of the Cenozoic, during the Ice Age, while Walking with Beasts really showcases much more of the diversity of incredible and bizarre animals which lived across the Cenozoic. From cat-sized horses in the late Paleocene, giant hornless rhinos in the Oligocene, and even our early ancestors in Africa. Walking with Beasts is a one-of-a-kind golden gem which dares to be different. Following the huge success of Walking with Dinosaurs, which aired 2 years before in 1999, the show's creator Tim Haynes was approached by the BBC to start working on a sequel. The broadcasting network asked for another series about dinosaurs, but Tim Haynes wanted to do something very different. Instead, he wanted to show what happened next and go forward into the Cenozoic era. The time had finally come to show some of the incredible life which lived after the Mesozoic, going right up into the present day. The world had never seen anything like it before. Just like its predecessor, Walking with Beasts was spectacular, entertaining, charming, and filled with a certain type of magic which is so hard to come by in recent television and movies. We got to see some familiar faces such as the well-known woolly mammoth and Smilodon, but we were also treated to many species that many of us have never heard of before or even knew ever once existed. Andrewsarchus was one of these incredible creatures and is one of my all-time favorite animals in the show. I remember when I first watched the show as a small child back in 2001, the Andrewsarchus stood out to me instantly. This large and formidable dog-like animal with its striking patterns really left a big impression on me. My parents bought me several books from the show, and I remember how I used to make sure I knew how to pronounce all the names of my favorite creatures from the documentary. I used to say Andrewsarchus over and over so I would never forget that name. I was a very odd child. However, what I was most excited about and what I wanted more than anything in the world was an Andrewsarchus figure. When Walking with Dinosaurs aired in 1999, a toy line was created for the show by Toyway in the UK, and I was absolutely crazy about these figures. All the dinosaurs and prehistoric reptiles were so beautifully made and were very accurate to their on-screen counterparts. I was completely hooked and I wanted every single one of them. However, unfortunately they weren't available in South Africa, and I think they may have only ever been released in Europe. Luckily, my dad would often travel overseas for business, and whenever he did, he would bring me back one of these incredible figures. So when Walking with Beasts aired 2 years later, I was greatly anticipating a new range of figures to release for this new show. I remember asking my dad to please be on the lookout for the Walking with Beasts toys, as I was sure they would be out soon. However, no figures for Walking with Beasts were ever created. Until now. Before we take a closer look at this figure and I get too carried away, let's first talk about what the real Andrewsarchus was really like. Although I love the look of this animal in the show, the Andrewsarchus, like many of the other creatures depicted in Walking with Beasts, is now quite outdated in our current time. Helping us to get a better understanding of this species is our first special guest, Dr. Darren Naish, at the London Natural History Museum. Dr. Naish is a world-renowned paleontologist, author and science communicator. He is also one of the lead scientific consultants for Apple TV's incredible Prehistoric Planet and more recent Prehistoric Planet Ice Age series, the latter of which also covers and highlights many wonderful animals from the later part of the Cenozoic. Please check it out if you haven't already. Just like Walking with Beasts, Prehistoric Planet Ice Age is something really special and an absolute must-watch for anyone who is passionate about ancient life.
Right, hi, I am with the Reptimax Andrewsarchus figure, and I've brought it to the Natural History Museum in London to actually show it alongside this cast of the one and only Andrewsarchus skull. This amazing specimen, the original, is in the AMNH, the American Museum of Natural History in New York. It's from Inner Mongolia, which is part of China, and it was discovered there in 1923. It was taken back to New York and it was described and named scientifically in 1924 by the famous paleontologist Henry Fairfield Osborn, and he named it Andrewsarchus after Roy Chapman Andrews, the paleontologist. A few other bits and pieces of Andrewsarchus have been found over the years, but basically we only have this one spectacular skull. It's about 84 centimeters long, it's 56 centimeters wide across the zygomatic arches. The eyeball would have been positioned where you can see that circular opening right there. Now, when Osborn first named this animal in 1924, he thought it belonged to a group of extinct mammals called Mesonychids or Mesonychids, part of a larger group called the Mesonychians. And as a consequence, it was thought that this animal had a kind of wolf-like form. They thought it basically would have been about 4 meters long, maybe 2 meters tall at the shoulder, and that it would have looked kind of wolfish overall. Andrewsarchus is from the Erdin-Manha Formation. This is a Middle Eocene unit. It's around about 45 million years old, and there's a really spectacular diversity of mammals that come from the Erdin-Manha. They include small forest-dwelling predators like myacids. They're kind of like weasel or cat-shaped small predators of woodlands. There are early rhinos there. There are members of the Paracerathea rhino group that includes the giant Paraceratherium. There are numerous Brontotheres. There's a crocodilian known from there. There's various birds known from that unit, including guinea fowl and an animal called Eogrus, which is kind of like maybe an early ostrich. And what these numerous fossils indicate is that the Erdin Manhu was a kind of combination of mostly open steppe-like habitat, but with some big meandering rivers surrounded by dense forest. So there was a mixture of forest and more open habitat. We don't know exactly what kind of habitat Andrewsarchus preferred, but presumably it was able to forage in woodlands and be out in more open areas hunting things. Now, its really remarkable teeth, which as you can see are really big and really bulbous and blunt-tipped, they indicate that it was probably an omnivore. It wasn't just a carnivore. Now, the canines are really big and they're actually missing from the original skull. So these are reconstructed and it's now thought they made them too big. There are 3 incisors on each side. The incisors are particularly big and the incisors are arranged in a kind of semicircular configuration, which is actually a bit odd for a mammal like this. Now, despite Osborn's original idea this was a mesonychid, this skull has a bunch of features that link it instead to the entelodonts. Now, this is this remarkable group of kind of giant pig-like hoofed mammals. They're not actually pigs, they're more closely related to hippos and whales, and it now seems that Andrewsarchus is part of that group of mammals. They're called the Cetancodontomorphans, and this means that as a Cetancodontomorphan, Andrewsarchus wouldn't have looked like a giant stripy megawolf. It instead would have been this kind of like big, tall-shouldered, long-legged ancient relative of hippos and whales. Imagined as a mesonychid, Andrewsarchus was thought to have this kind of wolf-like form. Maybe it was attractively striped and spotted, and you'll recognise this look for Andrewsarchus from various pieces of paleo art and also from the famous BBC TV series Walking with Beasts. They all use that stripy megawolf rendition. Imagined as that, Andrewsarchus would have been the world's largest predatory mammal. But in 1973, this title was challenged because a new giant predatory extinct mammal was discovered in Libya. It was actually found in 1963, but not published until 1973, and that's an animal called Megistotherium. Now, the Andrewsarchus skull is about 84 centimeters long. The Megistotherium skull is 66, I think, centimeters long, so it's not as long, but Megistotherium was argued to be a bulkier animal. It was thought to maybe have weighed around about a ton. Now, today we know that Megistotherium belongs to a group of mammals called the creodonts. Specifically, it's a hyaenurine hyaenodont creodont, and those animals have much bigger heads proportionally than do entelodonts and the other Cetancodontomorphans. So there's actually some uncertainty as to whether Megistotherium will be bigger than Andrewsarchus. However, Megistotherium is a completely different kind of mammal. It's more of a true predator. Andrewsarchus would be an omnivore, and as I've already said, something like a mix of like entelodont-like features, and maybe it would have had some similarities to animals like hippos. So there's a lot to say about this animal. I hope that was a useful summary.
Thank you so much, Dr. Darren Naish, for giving us all this information on this wonderful, mysterious megamammal. And huge thanks to Helion Naish for filming Dr. Naish in the London Natural History Museum. I must say, I was thrilled to know about Megistotherium. I've never heard about this giant hyaenodont before, and I think I'll definitely have to make a figure of this species one day. The Cenozoic is filled with so many incredible species, like Megistotherium, that so many of us have never heard of before. This is one of the reasons why I think the Cenozoic is just so endlessly fascinating. Dr. Darren Naish also joined me for my video on the Hatzegopteryx figure. Please give that video a watch if you haven't seen it. Speaking about the Hatzegopteryx figure, I'm absolutely thrilled to say that Dr. Naish has chosen this figure to be one of the prizes which you can win at the DinoCon quiz this year. DinoCon is a huge dinosaur and prehistoric animal convention held in the UK. I'm really looking forward to going to the event this year. My best friend Marco Makes is going to be a vendor there, and he has made so many beautiful dinosaur figures which will be for sale at the event. You might even get to see me dino shopping in person. Please be sure to book your tickets online at the official DinoCon website before it's too late. Now let's get back to the Walking with Beasts Andrewsarchus figure. After gathering more experience making my previous figures, I finally felt confident enough to tackle this project and do it justice. It was time to pull the figure of my childhood dreams out of my mind and into reality. Time to make the Walking with Beasts figure we deserved. I wanted to create something similar to the 1999 dinosaur figures, so it would appear as if the line had just continued into the toys for Walking with Beasts. However, instead of making a static and non-movable figure like the classics, I wanted my Andrewsarchus to have some articulation, something like the next step up from the Walking with Dinosaurs toys. Firstly, I gathered as much reference as possible, taking screenshots from the episode featuring Andrewsarchus, as well as looking through all my old Walking with Beasts books. One of the best reference images for the Andrewsarchus is this picture of the stunning head puppet which was used for close-up shots in the show. Part of the magic of the Walking with Beasts series is the perfect blend of CGI and practical effects which were used in the show. CGI, which was still quite new and groundbreaking for the time, was used when the camera was further away, while practical puppets and props were used for when we were looking at the creatures up close, just like what was done to bring the dinosaurs to life so convincingly in Jurassic Park. This perfect blend of practical effects and CGI have sadly become very rare these days, as more shows and movies tend to just go full CGI. So getting to actually see physical puppets and props created with such care and detail are really something special to see. When I was trying to find as many angles as possible online of this Andrewsarchus puppet, I stumbled across some really cool information. Someone on Reddit was talking about this very puppet and what became of it. They revealed who actually owns this Andrewsarchus head, and to my complete surprise, it belongs to none other than one of my favorite YouTubers, Trey the Explainer. If for some reason you don't know who Trey is, he is probably the most interesting person you will find on YouTube. He has created many fascinating videos covering prehistory, archaeology, and deep dives into cryptozoology. I'm absolutely over the moon to say that Trey, the man himself, has agreed to give us some more information on his Andrewsarchus puppet and how he was able to acquire it.
Hello there, guys. This is Trey the Explainer. So, the head. Yeah, that's a fascinating story to say the least. We'll have to go back to early 2021, when I was scrolling through the paleontology site of Twitter and learned that there was a massive eBay auction of props and other memorabilia related to the BBC Walking With series. Lots and lots of stuff was being sold, big and small, from little puppets to life-sized heads and limbs of reconstructed prehistoric animals. It was COVID lockdown, and I remember seeing the Andrewsarchus head and being like, I have to have that. I watched the Walking With series as a kid, probably like when I was 7 or 8, maybe even younger, and Walking With Beasts made a huge impact on me, especially those Eocene episodes. It got me excited about the past and paleontology, and how strange and beautiful the world can be. And as you know, that interest led me to YouTube, and well, the rest is history. Needless to say, when the auction started, there was a huge bidding war for this item. It was super competitive, and bids went very high. I ended up securing it and another prop. As far as I know, it originates from a warehouse in the UK that contained a lot of props from not just the Walking With series, but many monster, dinosaur, animal-themed projects of that time. The current status of the Andrewsarchus head is unfortunately a little sad. For the past 5 years, it has been relegated to a storage unit with a lot of my other stuff. I just don't have the space to put it anywhere in my current living situation. To be honest, it's a bit of a white elephant. It's really big, probably delicate, and getting close to 30 years old at this point. I don't know what to do with it. I don't want to get rid of it, but it costs a bit of money to keep, so yeah, I'll have to figure that out. I'm just happy to say I've treated it well. I've been keeping it safe and in good condition in a climate-controlled environment for several years now. Eventually, I hope to hang it up somewhere, but for now it's just collecting dust, unfortunately. I check on it from time to time. Looking back, it probably wasn't a smart financial decision for me in the long run, but what can I say? It was like a once-in-a-lifetime kind of thing, and it's worth it. It's really cool to own.
Thank you so much, Trey, for giving us this awesome extra information on the Andrewsarchus puppet. I'm so incredibly honored that you joined us in this video. I can't imagine how cool it must be to actually own this incredible work of art. Now that I have all the reference I need to get started on this project, I got straight to work. Starting off with creating the base of the body out of tinfoil and masking tape before I start to add the milliput putty. It was really fun sculpting a mammal and learning more about their muscle anatomy. I must say that the Beasts of the Cenozoic Smilodon and Jumanji Tiger were a huge help for helping me to fill in certain areas that I couldn't see too well on my available reference. I sculpted the underside of the feet separately on a flat piece of wood before attaching them to each leg. I found the feet of the Andrewsarchus in the show a bit confusing. In the narration, Kenneth Branger says,
Despite appearances, Andrewsarchus is not related to modern scavengers like dogs or hyenas. Bizarrely, he has hooves on his feet instead of claws.
When you hear the word hoof in your mind, you're probably picturing the foot of a horse, goat, or antelope. However, from what we can see in the show, these feet look like they have individual toes, perhaps something more like the foot of a hippo, which have 4 toes ending in a broad nail-like hoof. It's quite hard to see the Andrewsarchus's feet clearly in the show and other available pictures, so I just tried my best to make the feet look as show accurate as possible, making sure each toe's claws were blunt and rounded to look a little bit more hoof-like. I really am so happy with how this figure turned out. Originally, I didn't think that I would give my Andrewsarchus articulation, just like the Walking with Dinosaur toys, but I just couldn't resist giving it some basic posability. There were a lot of little corrections made here and there along the way as I had to guess the shape and size of certain areas. For example, at first I made the stomach much too wide on top view, as there was no reference available from the documentary to show just how broad the belly was when viewed this way. It's also really important to make sure the limbs can move freely without scraping on the body. Once I was happy with how everything looked and worked, I sent off all the parts to my wonderful molder and caster Erica, so we could get the Walking with Beasts Andrewsarchus figure into production. Now let's take a look at the finished figure and its packaging with my final special guest, Kat, also known as your local federal agent. If you haven't heard about Kat, you've gotta check her out. She makes many interesting videos on extinct and living animals. She is an absolute joy to watch, and she is honestly one of the most unique and wonderful people I've ever had the pleasure of talking to. She is really quite special.
Hey guys, it's Kat and I have a super exciting unboxing today. An absolute privilege to unbox Max Stringer's Andrewsarchus figure, and this guy's come a pretty far way. He's come all the way from South Africa, so I'm so excited to show you this figure in more detail. And before I get into the absolutely stunning figure in more detail, I want to start by looking at the beautiful box. So here you can see the absolutely stunning box art featuring 2 Andrewsarchus, and one is being thrown by a brontothere, as you can see in the episode of Walking with Beasts. And there is of course the awesome Reptimax logo and an indication that this is an adult collectible, so it's meant for people aged 15 and up, it's not a child toy, and signs showing that it is handmade and made in South Africa. I am also so glad that this box is resealable, so you don't have to break any of the packaging, any of this gorgeous packaging, to free the beast. And the top of the packaging shows the figure in more details, which we'll get into when we look at the actual figure, so toe beans, the mouth opening wide, and the fact that this figure is posable. The back of the box shows some more pictures of this gorgeous Andrewsarchus figure and some facts about Andrewsarchus, the actual Andrewsarchus, and the Andrewsarchus that we see featured in the show of Walking with Beasts. So first things first, this figure is just stunning. Like, look at the colouring, so vibrant, so beautiful, and it's got some really good heft to it. What I really love especially is the detail of the false eyes that you get in a lot of big cats. And the sculpt is just absolutely gorgeous. It features Andrewsarchus's famously very long snout and jaws, and little toe beans, how could I forget that, on the posable legs. And here you can see a closer look at the sculpt, and look at how amazingly painted the inside of the mouth is. Like, look at the teeth and look at the gums, that is just phenomenal. I also absolutely adore that counter shading is included in this figure, so it has a much darker back and a lighter belly and the cutest little striped tail. So as mentioned, this figure is articulated, and let me show you some of that because we're all suckers for articulation. So the jaw articulates. It opens pretty wide actually. I just don't want to force the figure because I haven't warmed up the joints yet. So you have mouth articulation, and all four legs are articulated, front and back. There you go. And there is a little bit of hip articulation, well that's shoulders, and hip articulation. And there is even some neck articulation. You can hear the squeaking, I need to warm up the joints. But I'd say the thing that does stand out the most is just how beautiful the colouring is. Like, I cannot wait to put this in the centrepiece of my display shelf. It's a gorgeous figure, and this Reptimax Andrewsarchus figure speaks for itself. I mean, it's articulated, it's beautiful, it's got a phenomenal sculpt, and what more do you really want to expand your figure collection? So, go get one while you can. They're limited edition at Reptimax, www.co.za. So now let's get on to what Andrewsarchus actually was, because this is one mysterious beast. Andrewsarchus lived around 45 million years ago in the Middle Eocene period in what is now China. So while Andrewsarchus lived after the dinosaurs went extinct, this still lived a long time ago. And since it was discovered in 1924, it's been reclassified as many different families, as I said, very changing, very mysterious. But it is thought to be one of the largest land carnivores to ever walk the earth. And pretty much everything that's known about Andrewsarchus is based on one skull, and this was a pretty large skull. It was thought to get to around 83 centimeters long or 32 inches. And this led to early assumptions about Andrewsarchus's length being around a body length of 3 to 4 meters or 12 feet long. While it's often depicted as a large wolf-like animal, it's actually not related to modern dogs or wolves. It's thought to be an artiodactyl. So the artiodactyl family includes members like whales, hippos, deer, and pigs. This also means that there is a chance that Andrewsarchus would have had hooves. Andrewsarchus is a completely fascinating, mysterious animal. It had a wolf-like skull, a body the size of a horse, and hooves. This would have been one freaky, but super cool and terrifying predator. Anyway guys, it was an absolute privilege to collab with Reptimax, and I'm super grateful for this absolutely stunning figure, and you should get one while you can. I hope you enjoyed these facts about Andrewsarchus, and subscribe for more content. Have a great day everybody. Or Andrewsarchus will eat you.
Thank you so much, Kat, for reviewing my figure and for giving us some great facts on the real Andrewsarchus. Please be sure to check out Kat on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube under the name Your Local Federal Agent. She also reviews many other figures on her YouTube channel. For a size comparison, here is my Walking with Beasts Andrewsarchus figure next to a 1/18th humanoid figure, which is just about right to how big the real animal was compared to a person. Here is the figure compared to the Beasts of the Cenozoic Andrewsarchus. Here it is next to the white rhino from the Jumanji toy line. Next we have some Walking with Dinosaurs figures. And finally my prototype woolly mammoth, which will also become available soon once I've perfected it. I really can't tell you how thrilled I am to have made something which I have wanted since I was a child. It was so much fun to sculpt a mammal and make something very different to a dinosaur or reptile. I have many more mammals currently in the works, including a more scientifically accurate Andrewsarchus figure. So far I have sculpted the head, and I'm hoping I'll be able to get the rest done in time for DinoCon. Keeping fingers crossed. I've also been working on a real feel woolly mammoth figure, which I'm hoping to release soon. Please note that this isn't the final design, as I'm currently trying to get the fur and shape of the body looking just right before adding the species to my website. Keep an eye on my social media for more updates coming soon. I'm also trying my hand at making something life-size too. For my first attempt, I'm making a replica of a Dinophilis skull, and I'm having so much fun putting it together. I've always had a soft spot for the saber-toothed cat species after I was first introduced to this animal in Walking with Beasts, just like the Andrewsarchus. There may even be a Dinophilis figure on the way soon. This Walking with Beasts project has been so much fun, and it's been so awesome working with all these incredible people. Please check them all out online. Thank you so much, Dr. Darren Naish, Trey the Explainer, and your local federal agent for collaborating with me in this video. I would absolutely love to make more Walking with Beasts figures in the future. If the Andrewsarchus does well, I could maybe make a Hyenodon, Dinotherium, or Ambulocetus next. Please let me know what you think in the comments below. I also want to give a big thank you to Andy's Dinosaur Reviews. Andy has been so incredibly supportive to me by reviewing my figures and helping me to reach a greater audience. Be on the lookout for more of my figures appearing on his channel soon. Another huge thank you goes to my molder and caster Erica, as all of these figures would not be possible without her. For more updates on future figures, please keep an eye on my social media. If you'd like to purchase your very own Walking with Beasts Andrewsarchus figure, please head over to my website. My website has recently been upgraded, so you can now purchase my figures within the site, similar to Amazon or eBay. We're getting more professional. If you would like to help me further, please consider supporting me on Patreon. Thank you so much to Sam Allred for all your continued support. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you again soon.